Most people believe rich and poor are playing the same game. They think wealth is just a scoreboard. You have more, I have less, but we're all following the same rules, right? Wrong. Rich people and poor people aren't playing the same game. They're not even playing on the same board. And the most dangerous part, poor people don't know there's a second game. They think everyone's following the same strategy. They're optimizing for the wrong victory condition, and this misunderstanding keeps them exactly where they are. Let me show you something most people get backwards. If you ask someone, what does it mean to be wealthy? They'll give you a number. Having $1 million, owning a nice house, making 6 figures a year. This is how poor people think about wealth. As an amount, a specific number in a bank account. Rich people never think this way. For them, wealth isn't an amount. It's independence from labor. It's the ability to stop working without their lifestyle changing. Wealth is measured in time, not money. A poor person with $10,000 thinks they're temporarily rich. A rich person with $10,000 thinks they're broke, because that money doesn't buy them time. It doesn't free them from needing to work. This difference in definition changes everything. Poor people optimize for having money now, today, this month. They ask, can I pay rent? Can I buy groceries? Their time horizon is weeks. Rich people optimize for controlling time forever. They ask, will this asset generate income for my grandchildren? Their time horizon is generations. Same word. Wealth, completely different meanings. And because they're thinking on different timescales, they make completely different decisions. A poor person saves money in a bank account. Why? Because they might need it next month. They're thinking short term. A rich person would never leave significant money in a bank account. That money isn't working. It's not generating more money. It's not buying them more time. This is the first invisible rule. Rich people and poor people measure success differently. Here's the second rule most people miss. Poor people think wealth comes from income. Get a higher salary, get a better job, get a promotion, earn more per hour. Rich people know wealth comes from ownership. Own things that generate money without your labor. Let me give you an example. A doctor makes $300,000 a year. Most people look at that and think, that doctor's rich. But rich people look at the same doctor and think, that's a high-income worker, not wealthy. Why? Because the doctor has to work to make that money. If the doctor stops working, the money stops. The doctor has high income, but no wealth. Now, compare that to a landlord who owns apartment buildings. The buildings generate $100,000 a year in rent. The landlord makes less than the doctor. But the landlord is wealthier. Why? Because the landlord doesn't have to work for that money. The buildings generate income while the landlord sleeps. The landlord owns an asset, the doctor owns a job. Poor people optimize for income. They want raises. They want promotions. They want higher salaries. Rich people optimize for equity and ownership. They want things that make money without their labor. This is why when you tell a poor person to invest, they don't really understand what that means. To them, investing feels like losing money. You put money somewhere, you can't touch it, it's locked away. But to a rich person, investing means buying something that will generate more money. It feels like planting seeds. You're exchanging cash for future income. Completely different mindset. The poor person sees an expense. The rich person sees an asset. And this leads to completely different games. I call these two games subtraction and multiplication. Poor people play the subtraction game. You start with a little bit of money. Every expense subtracts from that money. The goal is to subtract slowly, make the money last as long as possible. Rich people play the multiplication game. You start with money. Every expense is actually an investment that should multiply your money. The goal is to multiply as fast as possible. Same actions, different contexts, different outcomes. When a poor person's car breaks down, that's subtraction. Minus $500. They're now poor. When a rich person's car breaks down, they pay $500, but it doesn't affect their wealth at all, because their wealth is in assets that are still multiplying while they're paying for the repair. Or think about debt. For poor people, debt is subtraction. Credit cards, payday loans, high interest rates. Every month you're subtracting more and more. You're getting poorer. For rich people, debt is multiplication, low interest mortgages, business loans. They're using other people's money to buy assets that make them richer. Same word, debt. Completely different meanings, completely different games. And here's the problem. You cannot win a multiplication game using subtraction strategies. It's impossible. A poor person can be as disciplined as they want. They can budget, they can save, they can cut expenses. All of that is subtraction strategy. And subtraction strategy is rational when you're playing the subtraction game. But it will never lead to wealth, because wealth requires multiplication. Here's where it gets even more invisible. Poor people think having a job is safe, starting a business is risky. Rich people think the exact opposite. To a rich person, depending on one income source is terrifying. Having only a job means you're one bad event away from zero income. That's dangerous. But having multiple income streams, owning assets, that's safety. Let me show you the logic. A poor person has a job paying $50,000 a year. They're terrified of quitting because if they quit, they have zero income. So they stay, even if they hate it, even if it's going nowhere, because the alternative, no income, feels risky. But a rich person looks at that same situation and sees danger. You only have one income source. What if you get fired? What if the company goes bankrupt? What if you get sick? You're completely exposed. Poor people optimize for stability in poverty, a steady paycheck, benefits, predictability, even if it means staying poor. At least it's stable poverty. Rich people optimize for volatility with a safety net. They'll take risks, start businesses, make investments that might fail. Because even if they fail, they have other income sources, they have assets, they have options. When rich people give advice like just start a business or take risks, poor people think that's insane advice. And it is for someone playing the subtraction game. Because for a poor person, taking a risk means potential homelessness. One mistake and you're done. But for a rich person, taking a risk means maybe this doesn't work out and they try something else. Completely different games. The poor person is playing not to lose everything. The rich person is playing to multiply everything. Same action, different context, different risk profile. Now let me destroy one more myth. Everyone says rich people are good at delayed gratification. Rich people can wait for rewards. Poor people want everything now. But think about this more carefully. Who actually delays gratification more? Poor people delay gratification constantly. They skip meals to save money. They wear old clothes for years. They never go on vacation. They never buy anything fun. Their entire life is delayed gratification. Rich people? Rich people buy what they want when they want it. They go on vacation. They eat at restaurants. They buy nice things. So who's really delaying gratification? The difference isn't willpower. The difference is certainty of return. When a rich person delays gratification, they know the reward is coming. If they invest money, they're confident they'll get returns because they have enough money that even if one investment fails, they have others. But when a poor person delays gratification, there's no guarantee of reward. They skip meals to save $100. Then their car breaks down. The $100 is gone. They sacrificed for nothing. So it's not that poor people are bad at delaying gratification. It's that poor people have learned through experience that delaying gratification often leads to no reward. They're actually being rational when they don't delay gratification. The system taught them this lesson over and over, so here's what this all means. Rich people and poor people live in different economic realities. They're playing different games with different rules, and financial advice that works for one group doesn't work for the other. When a rich person says, just invest in index funds, they don't understand that the poor person doesn't have money to invest. They're still playing subtraction. They're trying not to go negative. When a poor person says, you need to budget carefully, the rich person doesn't understand why they would need to budget. Their assets generate more than they spend. All financial advice assumes you're playing the multiplication game. Every book, every podcast, every course, they all assume you have surplus money to invest. They assume you can delay gratification and get a reward. They assume you can take risks because you have a safety net. But if you're playing the subtraction game, none of that advice makes sense. And here's the part most people never realize. Both groups benefit from this confusion staying in place. Rich people benefit because if poor people understood the real game, they'd demand systemic change. They'd say, wait, the game is rigged. Poor people benefit from staying confused because understanding the truth is psychologically devastating. It's easier to believe, I'm doing fine, I just need more luck, than to admit, I've been playing the wrong game my entire life. So the system stays stable. Rich people teach their kids the multiplication game. Poor people teach their kids the subtraction game. And everyone stays exactly where they are. The invisible game isn't hidden because it's secret. It's hidden because seeing it requires admitting you've been playing the wrong game. And most people would rather keep playing and hope for different results than admit the board was designed for someone else. The game exists. It always has. The question is, do you want to see it, or is it easier not to?